Welcome to Prostate Cancer Uncensored, a podcast produced by Zero, the End of Prostate Cancer. I'm Dr. Reggie Tucker-Seeley, Zero's Vice President of Health Equity.
And I'm Kris Bennett, Zero's Director of Health Equity, Community Organizing and Engagement. And as an ex-professional basketball player myself, I'm really excited about today's guest, NBA All-Star, Grant Hill.
As many of you know, Grant Hill is a retired Detroit Pistons and Duke University basketball player and part owner of the Atlanta Hawks. And he's also a passionate advocate for raising awareness about prostate cancer among Black men. Welcome to Prostate Cancer Uncensored, Grant.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
First, we wanted to take a second just to thank you again for your advocacy around raising awareness around prostate cancer generally, and also your efforts to highlight the disproportionate impact it has on Black families. This is such important work, as we all know. Would you mind telling us a little about how you kind of raised awareness and why you got into this?
Yeah, Kris, I think we all, particularly Black men, I think we all are aware and at least have someone that we know, could be a family member, a friend, someone you work with, a colleague who has been impacted by prostate cancer. For me, though, personally, there really was nobody in my immediate family. It really started with, and you mentioned earlier, the Atlanta Hawks. We started 4 or 5 years ago a sort of a prostate awareness month initiative. And, our marketplace in Atlanta, there's obviously a strong African-American presence, and sort of part of our community efforts to really raise the awareness and with African-American men. But for me, so I was a part of that, and that certainly got me aware of the disparities in greater detail. But then to go to a step further and to partner with Dendreon Pharmaceuticals and to learn about those disparities and how disproportionate it is and how it just impacts our community, it was incredible. And so I knew at that point, as an athlete, and you would know this, you take ownership for not just your career, but your livelihood and your health, and really getting out there and encouraging all people, most importantly, African-American men, to get proactive, get off the sidelines, and learn more about this, and learn how it can be treated, and then also in a lot of cases avoided if there's early screening for it. So I know it's a long answer to your question, but I think that hearing about these disparities along racial lines, I knew I had to do something and to get involved and get off the sideline and get into the game.
Yeah. So it's great that you heard about the disparity and that motivated you to get more involved and to become a vocal advocate for health equity in prostate cancer. We at Zero define health equity as everyone having a fair and just opportunity to prevent, find, treat, and survive prostate cancer. So why is prostate cancer an important cause to you personally?
Well, I mean, I think, we talk about, and not to be controversial here, but, we talk about Black Lives Matter. And to me, there's many interpretations of what that is and what that means. But I think as someone who obviously cares about our community, and certainly there's a laundry list of things that are concerning, but this is alarming when you find out that, Black men are twice as likely to be diagnosed with and 2.5 times more likely to die from prostate cancer than Caucasian men. When you find out that I think 1 in 7 African-American men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. Like I said, there was I personally didn't have this. I don't have a family member, but if you care, you want to see other people take the necessary steps, so it doesn't have to be so we can change those numbers and bring those numbers down. and really impact, our community. And that's a way to do it. And so I feel like I'm, kind of historically been a relatively informed person. And, until I really had a chance to dive in deep, I was unaware of just this kind of impact. And so, the numbers, the statistics, some of which we've shared already, once you see that, once you're aware of that, then you're like, okay, what can we do? And how can we change that? And so part of it is talking about it, it's bringing the awareness and providing the same education, information, resources to our community, that yes, this is not something that's just happens to Black men and we just got to accept it. We can figure out how to at least bring those numbers down and try to beat this. And it's just like a game. As an athlete, you don't go into a game unprepared, but a lot of us in our community, we go into this fight against prostate cancer unprepared. So just giving a game plan, a playbook, giving the tools necessary to combat this is something that was, I don't know if appealing is the right word, but something that made me want to say, okay, how can I be a part of this? How can I change this narrative? How can I change this? And so, long story short, that's how and why I'm here now with you guys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So, I mean, a lot of men may be apprehensive or even nervous about being screened for prostate cancer. What is your message to any man right now that's kind of hesitant about being screened for prostate cancer?
Well, we got to get over ourselves. I do think, not just in terms of the screening for prostate cancer, I just think Black men in general don't like to go to the doctor. And, there may be a lot of reasons for that. There may be a lack of trust. Who knows what that is? But I do think in our community, we tend to only go when there's something wrong. And sometimes we won't even go when there's something wrong. And so we have to change that. And we have to go and get screened. There's other options for screening. Obviously, I think, the one that I think that has a lot of people fearful is look, this is your life, and this is something that can be avoided or at least treated if caught early. And that's what we have to get out there. So, get over yourselves. You can get blood work now. I mean, that's an option that wasn't there maybe 30 years ago. But once again, it falls into that bucket of educating and informing and just making people aware of these numbers, of what prostate cancer is, how it can be treated, but also if detected early, then it's a situation where it doesn't have to be fatal.
Right.
Yep. One of the things that we talk about a lot here at Zero is that, in addition to educating men, we also have to educate our healthcare delivery system. So one thing that you mentioned is that, African American men we may not necessarily want to go to the doctor, or we don't go to the doctor, but historically, the healthcare delivery system hasn't necessarily been a trustworthy partner to us. And so I think it's going to be important that in addition to educating, Black men around, going to the doctor, we also have to educate our healthcare delivery system to be better partners to us. And so one of the things that you mentioned earlier were those staggering statistics that sort of really engaged you in this process. And I can tell you from my perspective as well, sort of seeing those numbers, sort of really motivated me to want to do this role as well. So you mentioned, Black men are almost twice as likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer. We're over twice as likely to die from the disease in comparison to white men. What do these disparities mean to you, and why is it so important to address them now?
Well, first of all, I think it is critical that industries and healthcare, are proactive, particularly when it comes to preventative and, equitable care for communities of color. But yeah, these numbers, are staggering. And, you know, and we also, I think sometimes as Black men don't understand the impact it has on others, on our loved ones, on family members, friends of ours. And so I like to say, you know, it's important for us to be selfish so we can be selfless. And, you know, selfish in the sense of, you know, taking care of yourself. I mean, you know, but then also so you can, you know, do it for yourself, but also for those that are near and dear to you. But yeah, I mean, look, to me, this is something that if we all dive in, we all chip in, we all do our part, and we're proactive, we can reduce those numbers, and we should. You know, we should do that. And as I said, you know, Black Lives Matter has been a catchphrase that's been used and certainly been a topic of conversation. Well, this matters. Yeah. And this is important. To your point though about the industry, like I think part of it, you know, I think of like MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And, you know, mothers getting to a point where they were so upset, so frustrated, impacted by various deaths associated with drunk driving, that they got engaged, they got involved, and they created a movement and they changed laws. Yeah. And so until we, you know, until we act like we demand certain things and we demand this from the healthcare industry, then we're going to continue to get treated as such. And so, but before we can do that, we have to become aware and we have to understand. And there has to be a demand for change. And so we're sort of in the infancy stages of that in a lot of ways. But no, I mean, those numbers are just, they have to change. And that's what compelled me to, you know, get off the sideline and get in the game.
Yeah. Agreed. Those disparities, they have to become unacceptable to us. We have to say they're intolerable.
Right. And we've done that. I think we've done that as it relates to other issues pertaining to you know, to Black America. Right. But this is something where we're doing to ourselves. And, you know, it's one thing you can get into other themes, and we're not necessarily going to do that today. But we're worried about sort of what others are doing to us or unfairness or things of that nature. Well, we have to be proactive when it comes to our health and just be, you know, disciplined and get over our fears, our phobias, whatever we think is taboo. You know, that to me is about caring for the community, caring for ourselves.
Speaking of being disciplined, Grant, as an athlete, you know better than anybody else, right? We're conditioned to really take care of our bodies, right? From the nutritional piece to resting to the daily grind in the gym. A conversation that's actually come up pretty recently, now that I've been in this role, with a couple of coaches of mine, Black men, that all played, was about how surprised they were when they were diagnosed with prostate cancer. You know, one of my coaches actually felt like he had done everything right in his entire life, right? Ate well, slept, you know, didn't really go out. None of that, was taking care of his body. And then his body kind of just betrayed him. That's how he kind of felt when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Is that something that you've experienced before? And how would you encourage other athletes and other coaches to really begin to have the conversation about prostate cancer? And even the importance of just going in for prostate cancer screening?
Yeah, you know, that example that you use was really fascinating. And certainly as an athlete, I think you're very in tune with your body. And you know, certainly it sounds like this particular gentleman you're referring to, you know, did everything right, took care of himself, ate well, looked good, felt good, was very disciplined about all those things. And sometimes someone who's in that category can be susceptible because, you know, you're so in tune that you feel, okay, I can tell when something's wrong. Yeah. Well, with this, you don't necessarily feel it. And by the time you feel it, it could be too late in some cases. And so part of, you know, eating right, getting your rest, working out, recovery, you know, all of these things that I think someone who fancies themselves as an athlete, someone who takes care of themselves, someone who's going to have a long life, well, you have to add to that going to get screened, you know,
Yeah, great point.
and just going to the doctor in general, but going to get screened.
Yeah.
That should be part of your regimen. That should be, you know, it's not every day, it's not every month. You know, once a year is you know, suffice is perfect. But that's got to be part of the regimen of taking care of yourself. And but sometimes when you are in good shape and you can get a little bit, I don't want to say, you can be a little naive or delusional or maybe even arrogant to think that I don't need to go see the doctor because I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. And certainly that's good. That's a great thing, and I encourage anyone to do that, but you have to do more. And you're willing to be that disciplined about your body, then you can throw in an annual screening into the equation as well.
I love that. And so as someone that has a huge platform, right? Especially in the basketball world and really just the Black community, right? Like, I can't tell you how many times your name has come up in conversation at the barbershop, right? You know, how do you want your message to reach and resonate Black men who look up to you and view you as a trusted person, right? You mentioned trusted partners. And where do you see or hope that your advocacy can go?
Well, you know, I think to stay in the barbershop, you know, a lot of times barbershop, there's a lot of things that are discussed, and one of which is sports. And, you know, I think a lot of folks who are in the barbershops, you know, as patrons, may at some point in their life participate in sports. And a lot of them follow sports and are fans. And I think we all understand that, you know, you don't go into a game unless you're prepared. You know, an athlete doesn't go in unless they're in shape. There's a scouting report. They understand the other team's tendencies. You go in with, you know, giving yourself every opportunity as an athlete, as a team, and as a fan. You would hope your favorite team would give themselves every opportunity to be successful. And the same thing applies here. You know, we have every opportunity here to not only extend your life, but have a healthy, productive life. And to deal with prostate cancer, which is a real issue in our community. So it's that athletic mindset. It's the same thing. You don't have to necessarily have been an athlete to have that, but to be prepared, to have a playbook, to have a game plan. That's what's important. That's, you know, what we're trying to get across to people. And you know, we've been good. It's been received well, and we've certainly made a lot of headway, but we still have a lot more work to do, and we're committed to doing it.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Grant, for taking the time today to chat with us about your advocacy efforts. And I think having someone with your influence talking about prostate cancer generally and prostate cancer disparities specifically is so important. Our last question is focused on how can we support you to amplify your message? That is, what can organizations like Zero do to help you in your awareness, education, and advocacy efforts?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you guys, Reggie and Kris, for having me on, and the great work that you guys have been doing at Zero. It's, you know, I think we're all fighting the same fight. And I just think if I were encouraging you or anyone, it's just to continue to talk about it, spread the news, spread the knowledge, and let's win. Let's win this fight.
Grant, thank you again for taking the time to sit down with us today and talk about health disparities in prostate cancer and your advocacy efforts. We really appreciate you using your platform to make your voice heard and to talk to Zero, as well as to the men listening at home, to make a difference in the fight against prostate cancer.
Thank you for listening to Prostate Cancer Uncensored, a podcast produced by Zero, the End of Prostate Cancer. To download more podcasts, head over to zerocancer.org.